never done that. If there's mistakes, you just don't care. And I kind of loved how he said that. So I don't know, anything proving that Kurt Russell is cool on set makes me happy. But I dig it. No, I think jumping to another subject, the one thing I liked a lot about the Blu-ray is the guy who did the special effects was talking about it. And they said at the time, all these special effects were so new. And no one really knew what they were doing. So that's why the special effects were bad. Because this guy just went, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I can film people surfing. He's like, there's a surf park in Texas where people just surf. We can go film that. Then we'll put Kurt on a stationary surfboard and we'll shoot it. And everyone went, oh, okay, that sounds great. And then they started doing it and they realized how hard it was. So
that surfing did not look natural.
No, yeah, it looks bad. And so he was saying like he went to a surf park and then they just couldn't make it work in there. So the guy said that there's a lot of issues with the special effects and he took the blame for some of it. He just said that it was too advanced for what they were doing. And I thought that was kind of a funny story that all these years later, he's like, yeah, I messed that up. That was my
on the note of the special effects, remember when they're in the lair of the Surgeon General and there's a tray with a bunch of eyes, except instead of being eyeballs, it's like if you cut a 1-inch radius around the eye and then pull that off, the eye comes with it.
Whoa, I didn't see that.
You didn't know, because yeah, it was like, so these little flaps of skin they had were like 2 inches in diameter, circle-ish things with an eye and the eyelid in the middle, and they were kind of flat. So it's almost like they didn't understand that eyeballs were balls.
Oh, I love it.
But again, at the same time though, if you made it more gory, it changes the tone of things, and that's just this kind of fun, cheeky, inexpensive way to do that while you're otherwise sourcing all the money for kind of like the set of this lair that you're only going to have for 4 minutes of the movie with Bruce Campbell.
That was a big build for that. I loved it.
It was funny hearing Bruce Campbell too. I'm like, wow, you even sound young. And then I'm like, oh right, this is just a few years after Army of Darkness.
Yeah, young Bruce Campbell.
Because we best know Mark, we best know him from the Wizard World conventions. And of course, we know like 60-year-old Bruce Campbell, whose voice is deeper. And, he's, I'm not saying he wasn't a man, but he's just different. He seemed more more mature and manly now. I don't know how to put it. It's not like he wasn't manly back then. He had a deeper voice.
I love that they made his chin bigger.
Oh yeah, and that weird like kind of shiny look that people with like old school facelifts would have.
Yeah, that was cool though, right? That was some good makeup right there.
You know what the nurse reminded me of? The first nurse that we see in that scene. She reminded me of that episode of The Twilight Zone where the woman, they're trying to fix her face, and then at the end she looks totally normal, and you realize that the experiment failed because everyone else looks like that.
No, I love that episode.
And she thought she was ugly, and then I feel like they modeled that specifically after that, just a more toned down version of it.
So many people. Twilight Zone.
Do you think that they took the hologram thing? Do you think that was from Total Recall? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. And I also love too in the beginning when they introduce him to all of his weapons. So he shows up, and I'm looking right now. I like that they caught him in Las Vegas, Thailand, Las Vegas.
He was
New
arrested
Vegas,
for gunfighting in New Vegas, Thailand. Mark, I simultaneously do and don't want to go there.
So he had a blow dart, which he uses later, 500 extra bullets, a tracer in his watch, a holocam, and then he had like a mini nuke battery that you could only use once. But I like during the scene where he goes, "They took my holocam," and then later on, you have him using the holocam, and you learn that he had the holocam. It's a nice little bait and switch if you're paying attention to the film.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely put some thought into that.
I want to know how that holocam worked. So how did he know what was going on around the hologram?
Yeah, Well,
how did he hear what they were saying to the hologram?
That's a really good point too.
That also applies to elsewhere, but you see, or when they used it against him earlier, the holograms, they have surveillance in those buildings. So, and they can hear and see what he's doing and where he is. But like when he was using it, and I would have the same criticism, by the way, for how they used it in Total Recall. But when he says, "Do you really think this was the real Quaid?" I forgive it.
That'd be funny if Snake was in a tree, just acting everything out, and people could hear both of them. Like, it's bonkers, but, I've never thought about that in this movie. That was one thing that never, ever worried me.
How to use the hologram?
Yeah, because everything is so insane in this movie that I guess I never even thought about that. And I never thought about how they built the basketball court. This is one of those movies, John, we're talking about it now, but I have never asked questions about this movie for some reason.
I have another question.
Okay.
So now listeners who haven't seen these movies a lot, like just you hopefully realize it from the discussion, but this is absolutely not a remake. This is absolutely a sequel, but it's kind of a sequel the way that 2011's The Thing was a prequel. They're kind of filling all the same beats. Even though, right, you have this much time, you're rescuing the president or the president's daughter, you got to get yourself back. There's some, dictator there. Right. So all that, he gets shot in the leg. Yeah. And limps around for a while. So, but it's a sequel because they acknowledged that 16 years ago he did this for us, and they in New York, which made me write down right then. So what happened to the New York prison island?
Gotta be still around, just on different areas. So don't they still send prisoners to New York and then undesirables to L.A.?
So, and then there was something that didn't quite seem to fit. And that's that when we saw the first movie, they identified that a special police force was made to police the border of Manhattan Island. Mm-hmm. And then in this one, they told us that, whatever it was, the police force of the United States was made to guard the water border of L.A. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, so are there two separate police forces, these two separate, they're saying they're sending all the undesirables and prisoners, the prostitutes, atheists, criminals, all of them are going to L.A. Island. Did New York just get full?
Yeah, maybe it's just they got tired of shipping people from L.A. to New York. So maybe
it's regional. It's regional. So if you're east of the 100th meridian, you go to New York. If you're west of the 100th meridian,
right? That seems maybe
right. Sure. But New York's still there, right? So
in this world, wouldn't it be smarter just to drop them off at Cuba?
I don't know. I don't even know it's that smart of this theocratic president to put them in L.A. You're putting all these intelligent people into this place where they have all these resources. Mm-hmm. If they have electrical grids going, right? Mm-hmm. We have surgeons there.
Gasoline.
Even if they're a little insane, right? Yeah, you're right. There doesn't seem to be a shortage of power sources. At least the movie never acknowledges it. People are driving around with whimsy, having slow driving gunfights, right? When Snake enters, they're having a 12-mile-an-hour gunfight.
A new metal gunfight. I love it.
From 20 feet away from each other. I don't know how they're missing with automatic weapons, but either way, so they're not being resourceful, or I'm sorry, they're not being frugal with their resources.
Or bullets. Remember in Mad Max how they had 8 bullets?
Right, and here they have guns. New York, for some reason, Snake was the only guy with a gun. I guess they somehow got all the guns off of New York. That would have been quite a project. Well, LA's got guns. They've got everything. Dude, they have biotech companies. They have other tech companies. Is Google there or is that San Francisco? But either way, there are all these things there. Is there a Boeing factory there? I don't know. But couldn't they make something to leave the island and instead of going east towards the mainland, go west and then go down to Mexico or go up to upstate? I feel
Snake mentioned that, right? To Valerie Galina. He's like, why don't you go to Mexico?
Right. I feel like it's well within their capabilities.
They could definitely do it. I guess it's not that bad there. Remember on that big row of all the shops? No one seemed bummed or worried about cannibals killing them.
And apparently they're using money. Because before Snake, who is clearly a bad liar, by the way, it's like, I got 10 million greenbacks back in there. Well, she said it like it mattered that she had it. So I think that they're still using the economic concept of faith and currency to purchase things. And then he's like, no, bluebacks. No, bluebacks, I swear. Worst liar ever. It's like listening to my 6-year-old niece try to tell me what she didn't do. Did you hit your sister? No.
Yeah, that That was a bad lie that he said to
Yeah,
her.
he was sweating bullets. I get that he was not feeling well, but that was the worst lie ever.
And it made me feel bad now for Texas Mike O'Shea. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, all right, it's bad. They have money. He was lying about the money. She had money. Hershey had the money. They have gasoline. You got to get that from somewhere. Car repair. There's a system
Electricity.
there. Yeah, there's a system.
Medicine.
And people seem they don't, remember in New York how we just saw people running scared for their lives?
Right. Constantly.
There's not much of that. That's more like the No Escape Island. This is more of I don't know. It seems
New York seemed to cast a veil of apocalypse on that island. Here, we have a few moments of that, mostly when he first gets there with the gunfights and, kind of like when he's motorcycling around and we see that the shopping barter towny scene. But I almost feel like that misrepresents most of what we saw. Or maybe that's the outskirts, right? The outskirts are maybe a little more Badlands. And then closer to Cuervo's lair, it is more organized or more civilized or something.
Yeah, because he has that control.
But I mean, Hershey was not excited to leave. She has money and she loves L.A. She wasn't enthused to leave until she was assured that they were bluebacks, a different currency, perhaps the currency of America now. And maybe the idea was that whatever money they had was no longer good in the real world. Oh, but we'll each get $1 million in real world money, not L.A. Island money. Oh, well, now we're willing to go. But like just escaping for the sake of escaping, that did not interest them.
I know they had a nice boat too with electricity.
Yeah, they were on a big cruise liner.
And I know that they were on the water, but there was some very nice blue water in Hershey's lair. It's a nice pad.
Speaking of water, when he was taking his sub in, did you notice that
shark?
He passes Universal Studios and then there's a shark?
Yes, I love it.
Very Jaws.
That made me happy. So that means that went under the water. It's an interesting world, isn't it? And then he ramps it onto the thing and meets Peter Fonda. I want to be part of the surf gang. They seem really chill.
Dude, so I found this out by accident. I was looking through the cast looking for someone else. Breckin Meyer was one of the surf crew.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like fresh off the coattails of Clueless, basically. He was one of the surfers. I mean, I feel like we just see everyone like under dark shadows, just sitting there in the water with guns. But so he had a 3 or 4 second screen time part in this movie.
Oh, I love it. They seem like the chillest guy. I don't know why he parked his dune buggy in a place that was going to be wiped out, though.
Yeah, he clearly had a lot of dune buggies because he knew that thing was going to get trashed. He could have climbed down there.
If you can waste dune buggies, your life is pretty good.
Although he also was talking about it like this only happens like once a year or something like that. It almost made me think of a smaller scale version of Patrick Swayze before he gets captured at the end of Point Break. Like he doesn't even know if he'll survive this ride, but he has to do it. Maybe that was kind of an implication that I don't think was clearly conveyed. But
he seems to have made it, right? He made it.
I mean, I think he's done it before. But they made it sound like this is not a regular occurrence.
Mm-mm.
Like he had been waiting a long time for this.
Maybe he sacrificed a dune buggy to the water gods.
Could be.
What if that dune buggy hits you when you're about to go surfing?
Dude. Oh, that would be tragic.
Dune. And I gotta tell you though, man, people complain about this surfing scene all the time. But I love it. He just catches up to Steve Buscemi's ride, jumps on it. It's absurd. But it's
absurd is the word, right?
It's purposely absurd. Oh, it makes me happy.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to just say that. Like, it's not right to be upset with it. Can we talk about the president's daughter?
Utopia?
Who, right, and what a deliberately ironic name to give her when they're sending her to the not really a POC escape, now that, I've really watched it and thought about it, of L.A. But, dude, she has been in like every show that you watched, like every sitcom or sitdram that you saw in like
My
the late
So-Called Life.
80s and 90s. Right? She was Rayanne in My So-Called Life. She was in every episode of Drexel's Class with Dabney Coleman. She was in like a couple episodes of Beverly Hills 90210. I think she was in an episode of The Wonder Years. She's been in like 15 shows for at least a couple. Baywatch.